Now, a year ago this week, rioters took to the streets across the Midlands. And this week on Central Tonight, we assess what life's like now for some of those involved.
In a moment, we'll speak to a man who was jailed for looting. But first, a senior police officer reflects on lessons learnt from last summer's darkest hours. Wesley Smith reports.
Shocking scenes on the streets of Birmingham city centre this week, 12 months ago. Looters ran riot, terrifying anyone who happened to be standing in their way. The East Midlands too saw its share of unrest. Nottingham and Leicester witnessed sights few would ever want to see again. But it was Birmingham where lives were lost amid the unrest. 3 men died in Winston Green. In Newtown, police found themselves being shot at after fires were started in a pub and hooded men stalked the streets. Assistant Chief Constable Gary Forsyth was one of those in charge of coordinating the operation to try to restore peace and calm to the streets that week.
I did see a lot of our officers in what were very scary situations, and I spoke to a number of them who were experiencing very scary situations in terms of what they were dealing with out on the streets. But I was really heartened actually to see how willing they were to put themselves in the face of danger to protect the public.
Birmingham remains one of Britain's most popular shopping centres, so it's difficult to believe that this time last year it became a battleground. Looters on New Street and the surrounding areas bringing police one of their toughest ever challenges. So if the worst did happen again, would they do things differently?
Yes, we have changed our tactics. Yes, we have got stronger community engagement. Are we in a position to respond if it was to happen again? Yes, we would be in a position to respond. Do we think it will happen again? Nothing to suggest that at this moment in time.
So many lives were changed last summer. The ramifications are still being felt. Convictions run into the hundreds. West Midlands Police insist lessons have been learnt, and community policing is the bedrock of what they're doing to ensure we avoid a repeat of August 1 year ago. Wesley Smith in Birmingham for Central Tonight.
Well, one man whose life changed during the riots in Birmingham is the award-winning filmmaker Aston Walker.
He went into the city centre to film the unrest, but ended up taking goods worth £200 from a clothes store. He was jailed for 16 months, but has been released early on licence. We spoke to him a short time ago, and first of all we asked him why he did it.
It was a case of opportunism, greed, selfishness, really, to be honest.
I mean, the intriguing thing about this is that you're a filmmaker, you're an award-winning filmmaker, you're out there filming the riots, and then suddenly you switch and think, oh, I want a bit of the action.
Yeah. It's just selfishness and greed on my part, and opportunism, you know, clearly thinking that I'd get away with it, and I just sort of selfishly helped myself to some clothing.
So in similar circumstances, would you repeat it?
I doubt it, no. I mean, what sort of crystallised everything in my mind is I'm a Muslim, and the mosque where I pray was where the family of who lost their loved ones in the dreadful circumstances. So that really crystallised in my mind. I sort of met Abdul Qudus, who lost his 2 brothers, and it was just shock and just disgust with my own actions. You know, it was very embarrassing.
Were you surprised by the length of sentence that you got?
I wasn't surprised.
Because you got 16 months.
I got 16 months, but for me, you know, I'd been engaged in sort of petty criminality since the age of 15, and clearly there was a character flaw, you know, within myself that hadn't been addressed, and the whole being caught looting and so forth sort of really brought this to the fore, as it were. So there's a certain inevitability. If one sort of keeps the company of criminals and so forth, then eventually you're going to end up in prison, you know. And I'm a filmmaker. I enjoy making films, and you know, I've won awards and been recognised for that. Had I been more focused on sort of my filmmaking and developing my craft rather than sort of just hanging around and dossing, you know, then maybe I wouldn't have ended up, you know, stealing.
Has your recent experience been a life changer? Are you going to rebuild your life?
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, aside from the sheer embarrassment that I've sort of caused my sort of family and so forth, you know, it's a case of now I have to rebuild and start from the bottom. And you know, a good friend of mine has offered me some voluntary work.
Well, we wish you all the best, Aston. Thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And tomorrow evening, our business correspondent Mark Goff speaks to shopkeepers to assess the impact of the riots and how they are rebuilding their lives.
Now, the largest and